This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by Freaking.com. I was standing here with Mark Edge from Free Talk Live, who is engaged in a little bit of effort to try and change some laws in New Hampshire. You have a concern with regard to the way felons are treated when it comes to guns. They're pretty much stripped of their ability to defend themselves kind of for the rest of their lives in New Hampshire if they have a felony.
Yeah, a lot of people, this is an issue that a lot of people really don't quite get. It seems perfectly logical for many people who are sort of believe in the small government paradigm to think, well, if we're going to have any gun laws, it seems like we should keep guns out of the hands of convicted violent criminals and crazy people.
Well, felons aren't necessarily violent criminals.
Indeed, and you know, that's the next step down. You know, any felon, then after that, anybody who has a misdemeanor, and you know, the steps keep on going until they take your guns. But here's where one has to extrapolate. I am a convicted violent criminal. I was convicted in 1989 of murder in Florida. I didn't kill anybody, but when you look up the felony 1 murder laws, and you'll see that they're a little complicated. So you just have to kind of be around when somebody gets killed. And what that results in is that legally I cannot own a firearm to protect my family. Now, I've been released. It's been 10 years since I was in prison or any kind of supervision or anything like that. I've got no probation, no parole, no nothing.
And you have a stellar record inside the Free Stater community. Yeah,
indeed.
As far as I know.
Right.
And I would know.
And so you have to ask yourself, do the gun laws prevent bad ex-cons from getting guns? And I think everybody knows that if I wanted to get a gun, I could have one by midnight tonight. So who is the law preventing people from getting guns? And that would really be the good ex-cons who just want a gun to protect themselves in the same way that anybody else might do such a thing. It also excludes their wife and their family from owning firearms, because essentially, since I can't be in active possession, that means that I can't be in the same room with one where I'm closer to it than you are. So if a gun is on the other side of you, I'm okay, but if the gun is between us, then I'm not okay. Mm-hmm. So it's very complicated, and it causes all kinds of problems. So
well, of course, the taxpayer is forced to underwrite the enforcement process.
Indeed, and hundreds of felons go back a year for simply this.
Normally, I'm pretty good at asking like adversarial questions and stuff like that. Something like this, which is relatively controversial, I should be able to come up with something, but I'm just kind of drawing a blank.
Well, that's because I'm addressing the things that
Exactly.
that people are concerned with, and I understand why they're concerned. I don't know how I feel about crazy people getting guns, but I do know that if the government decides who's crazy and who isn't, they're going to decide you're crazy and you're not going to get a gun. So that's why I find this all very, very complicated. But that's the sort of federal law. The New Hampshire law, strangely, New Hampshire has the most restrictive gun laws in the nation for felons. Now, they have very non-restrictive gun laws when it comes to regular folks, but when it comes to felons, they're very restrictive. And I'm going to quickly, I have to look at the computer screen to quote what they say here. They say that a person is guilty of a Class B felony if he owns or has in his possession, under his control, a pistol, revolver, or other firearm, or slung shot. I think that means slingshot. This was written in the early 1900s.
Battle of Hastings.
Metal knuckles, billies. What is that, a sock full of marbles? I mean, really, what's a billies? Stiletto, switchblade knife. Now, switchblades have been legalized in New Hampshire for everybody else, but not for felons, because we might quick whip it out and stab a cop or something. Sword canes. Pistol canes, which, as if that wasn't covered in firearm. Blackjack. Blackjack, I think that's the sock full of marbles. I'm not sure. I get confused on these things. So, dirks and daggers, or any other deadly weapon as defined as RSH 625. Now, prior to 2007, when the New Hampshire Supreme Court decided to define any other deadly weapon as no other weapon at all, when a ex-cop was convicted, was charged with shooting a porcupine with a bow and arrow, and then the Supreme Court found that that wasn't a deadly weapon because he had it for the reason of killing porcupines, I guess. So Until then, just grabbing a steak knife for me was a felony. Cutting my meat with a knife was a felony, because that would be considered a deadly weapon. And at any point, they could whip this out and decide that a steak knife is a deadly weapon. I can still be under arrest for this. It's not like it's changed the enforcement of the laws. Now, this law, which is RSA 159:3, stinks. I mean, it's really awful. This means that not only can I not possess a gun, but I can't have, a dagger. What is that, a two-sided knife, a stiletto? I don't know. I mean, it makes it very complicated as to what I may or may not be able to protect myself with, my family with. It makes it very complicated as to, how do I know what the law means and what it says? Can I own a crossbow? Is that a deadly weapon? These things, this law really just entirely needs to go. But if they were to eliminate all these complicated things like slingshots and dirks and things and just leave it to firearm, then we'd be right at the point that the federal government allows felons at. Federal government allows a felon to own something that isn't a firearm, meaning that a gun that was created after 1898 and doesn't have ammunition that's readily available in the United States.
Before 1898.
Excuse me. Yeah, before 1898. So, I could carry a black powder pistol or something like that, which seems like that'd be enough to scare off your average crook.
To start, yeah.
So,
well, eventually it'll change. It may be 20 years from now, but at some point we'll have the numbers.
Yeah. And I can't say I'm real hot to trot to go out and get my brand new shiny Glock or anything like that. I guess Glocks don't shine.
No, they don't.
But I think that people should be free to.
All right. Well, thanks, Mark. Are you planning anything specific, like any type of legislation you're going to ask to be submitted, or?
I've talked to some legislators on this issue, and I'm hoping that it goes the right way. They seem to understand my situation. I'm not going to call their names or anything like that because I don't want them to be under pressure. The politics is an ugly business. You never know what's the right time to introduce what, and so I'm not going to tell them how to do their jobs. I just hope that they do it in this case.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
This program is brought to you by freekeen.com. Freekeen.com features audio, video, and blogs chronicling the transition to a voluntary society. Freekeen.com also has comments and discussion forums so you can be heard. Freekeen.com.